Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
Welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 286. We have a wonderful guest for you today. So make sure you click to subscribe right now and ensure you'll never miss a journey. I post 1 to 2 episodes each week and each guest has a fascinating story to tell. Today we have Chris Michael Harris, the host of StartupU Podcast and the founder of StartupU, an interactive learning platform that helps people start and grow their online business. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how are you?
I am fine, thank you. I know my audience are excited to hear your story, but just by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today that will help us on our journey to success.
Yeah, so I think the big thing is there's so much specifically with online business that we make it so convoluted and so complicated. And I think the reality of it is we're probably making it harder than it has to be in a lot of ways. So I'm very practical, I'm very pragmatic, and I like to think about things in a systematic way. And I think that seems to really help people when it comes to online business, just because there's so many things to do. There's so many things that are overwhelming. There seems like there's a million things you have to remember just to run like one ad campaign or something, or just to run one offer. You got to do all of these things, right? And so I try to teach people to take things one thing at a time and think about it systematically. And I think that really seems to help a lot.
So I can't wait to hear about that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own online business?
Yeah. So we can go way back. So I've always been very industrial in terms of just starting businesses. And at the time, they weren't even businesses, right? When you're 11 and 12, I don't consider that a business, but I was always doing something outside of the traditional 9 to 5, right? So whether it was mowing lawns or doing lawn care work and things of that nature for my neighbors in, like 11, 12 years old. And just over the course of the summer between 5th and 6th grade or middle school, what have you, all the way up into high school, started my own DIY kind of company where we were helping people, clean their gutters or hedge their bushes or pressure wash their driveway. We made $16,000 over the course of a summer in high school. Ended up having to hire our friends because we just had so many requests. So I'd always really seen the value in, really finding opportunistic pursuits, right? Ways to make money that didn't involve you trading your hours for pay. So that was just really indoctrinated in me from a very, very young age. So I get to college and I just happened to see these two young ladies, and I was a single young man. So there was a lot of benefit in me for me to talk to them anyways, if I'm being totally transparent. And they were moving this really heavy fold out sofa, right? The big steel, I don't know if you're familiar with one of those, but they're really heavy. And they're moving it all the way down this hallway in this apartment building I lived in. And I said, we should help them. Like, they're really struggling with it. So my brother and I we helped. Mom tipped us like $50 for helping, just a quick 5 minutes. And she gave us $50 because she was so grateful for us helping. So the wheels started turning in my head. Like, we might have something here, right? There might be something to pursue. Had a flyer printed out, talked to the lease office manager at that building. And within a very short period of time, like 45 days, we made like $8,000 to $10,000, like in just the end of the summer months, transitional summer months of, college, from kids moving around from apartment to apartment and things of that nature. So I go off. That was leading into my senior year of college. So I graduate, get a quote unquote real job as a traveling salesman. And my brother continued to do this moving business, right, that we now started to do. And lo and behold, within a very short period of time, that next summer, I think him and a friend that he kind of recruited to help did about $23,000, over the course of like the entire summer, expanded beyond that building. And, we're doing a lot around the town. And I kind of was helping funding and, giving them money for t-shirts and marketing and stuff like that. And then coming back on the weekends to actually help myself. So at some point in that process, kind of seeing that thing was taking shape and taking form, I was kind of learning like, man, this is tough. I see this opportunity, but in my mind, the smart thing to do is to stay with this job, right? Like, this is what you do. You grow up not to go do these little side hustle moving things, you grow up to go get a real job in the, the corporate space. So anyways, my boss had made a comment to me that was kind of like the pivotal moment, right? That changed everything. And he told me, he said, Chris, you're never going to get respect in this business until your hair looks like mine. And patience, his hair, if you saw him, is as white as snow. I mean, he was literally in the last few years of his career. And I'm like, so I have to wait until I'm 3 years away from retirement to earn people's respect in that business? Like, I'm not interested in that, right? Like, I don't want to be you. No offense to him. I respect and admire him, but I don't want that life. So very quickly after that, within a matter of a couple months, I quit that job and I went back and I said, I'm going to pursue my little moving thing because I think we've got some traction. I think we're going to pursue this and actually do well with it. From that point forward, over the next 36 months, I grew that into a multi-million-dollar company. We were doing business in 32 states around the country. I had 350 employees part-time employees at any given time, scattered all over the place. We were doing a lot of installation work, furniture installation, not just moving college students. We kind of expanded beyond that with our offering. And so that was the first inception of my quote unquote real business. And I was having so many amazing conversations and leaning on mentors or talking to entrepreneurial friends about what I was experiencing in that journey, because as you can imagine, you're kind of every day you're learning with a fire hose, right? It's just, oh my gosh. So when you're growing that fast, there's just so many things that are happening. You're having to learn and acquire so many new skills. Like I didn't know what cash flow management looked like. At one point in that growth process, I was owed $432,000.
Wow.
I had no idea how to manage that kind of, like, what do I do? How do I continue to pay for my business to grow when I'm working with these big companies that owe me all this money, but they have net 60 terms. So I technically am not legally going to get paid in the near future. How do I continue to still make payroll? So that's just one example. There were millions of things that I was having to learn quickly. And I'm 24, 25, like I have no idea. I don't know. I barely even know who I am, So it was a really tough process. So bottom line is, having these conversations one day, I just said to myself, why am I not recording these conversations? Because this is so valuable and maybe somebody can get something out of this that is going to be beneficial for them, right? Maybe they don't have to experience the things I'm experiencing to the degree that I'm experiencing them. And so the birth of the podcast, my podcast began. And within a short, 2 to 3 weeks, we were trending top 5 on iTunes at that time. On 3 different categories, new and noteworthy. So business, health, and education. And we stayed top 5 to top 20 range. Kind of bounced around for about 8 straight weeks. So we went from, hey, this is just something I'm going to record and put on the internet to, oh my gosh, we have something here, right? So I started to reach out to bigger guests. I've had some really amazing, some of the most notable entrepreneurs on the planet have been on my show, like Daymond John, Barbara Corcoran, actually 3 of the sharks from Shark Tank. Grant Cardone, Guy Kawasaki, Marie Forleo. For those of the online folks, probably know Marie. Dr. Josh Axe, who has the largest health and wellness website in the world with 19 million hits per month. Over 40 New York Times bestselling authors and thought leaders in their respective spaces. People like Jack Canfield. I mean, it's crazy because it's the people that I read their books, and I don't say that to sound boastful, but truly it is still hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that the people that I used to read their books or really admire and follow them online, like I'm actually having real conversations with these people. And in some cases, I'm actually strategic partners with them now in some capacity. Like I'm either an affiliate or we do things for each other, scratch my back, you scratch yours kind of thing. And so that led to the online business. So it kind of, again, that was a long way to answer your question, but it kind of all requires some context. But yeah, it all kind of just has been a journey of first business into falling into the online space.
Wow. What a background, Chris. Well, I hope you enjoyed the journey. Did you?
At times, yes. And I would say this, and maybe this is a good life lesson wrapped up in this. I feel like people that are type A's, and if you haven't gathered already, if you're listening, maybe you as well, Patience, I'm very type A, right? Like I'm very intense. I can be very, my goals, I go after them very, very hard, right? In being that type of person, and this is going to sound very cliche, but I don't stop enough to smell the roses. I remember when I made my first million, I'm like 26, 27 years old. And I'm like, I expected it to be this grandiose moment where, fireworks, the blew around me and the stars shone brighter and, all these things. And honestly, my first thought after about 10 seconds was, okay, how do I make $1 billion? Like it just So, and I'm not saying that as something that people should aspire to. I'm saying that because I should have enjoyed it more, right? I look back in hindsight and I think those were such amazing moments that when I'm on a show like yours right now, I probably appreciate it more now in hindsight than I did at the time. And that to me is such a, that's unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate that in hindsight, I have to look at it that way. So yes, I enjoyed a lot of it. I wish I had enjoyed it more.
Wow. Now you better start
Yes,
before you make a billion
exactly.
And you don't enjoy it.
Exactly. Check back in 10 years. I'll tell you if I'm practicing what I preach.
I'll be here waiting.
All right.
Okay. Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do it? So I think this is important. And this is, I'm a big fan of like a start with why mantra, Simon Sinek's like figure out why you want to do what you do, which is effectively what you're asking me. For me, there's two things that are really important. And a lot of people are driven by a lot of various things. They're probably expecting me to say money, right? Because I'm talking about money and multi-million-dollar company and growth and all these things. And it's not that at all, which is crazy. Again, I think people probably would assume that's the case. For me, it's two things. It's impact and influence. So impact and influence. Impact, I want to do something noteworthy in the world, right? I want to be known for something great. I have this real, we all have this as human beings, this fear of being insignificant, right? Of living your life and looking back on your deathbed and saying like, man, did my life matter, right? Brendan Burchard says this. He says, live, love, matter. I think that's the significance part. So for me, it's impact. I want to do something that I'm not just remembered by a few, right? And then influence. So I want to influence others to do the same. I want to influence people that are listening to this right now, that are scared, maybe that have a 9 to 5 and they haven't given themselves permission to just go for it, right? To just do it, right? To just dive in and go for it. So for me, it's those two. And I think the positive thing about all that is the more impact that I have, the more the influence grows, right? Like they go hand in hand, fortunately. And I think when you find that alignment, it's interesting because if you study the world's billionaires, most of them, if you really ask them what motivates them to do what they do, none of them cite money, right? The money is the benefactor of everything else that they do. They're so focused innately on their why. And what ends up happening is that you see the result of that, right? The fiscal result of that, but that's not what drives them. That's not what motivates them. And to a degree, and I feel like this is maybe, this is not what you asked me, but kind of just my thoughts here on it. I think so much of the online space, you see people talking about the money. Well, I'm a 6-figure, I'm a 7-figure entrepreneur, and you should listen to me. And by all intents and purposes, that's smart because it is proof of you've actually done this for yourself. But I definitely think that there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, specifically in the online space, that that's what it's about for them. And it's unfortunate to see that's the driving motivation, or at least it appears to be the driving motivation. Picture people taking pictures with their cars, their fancy cars, and money in their hands, stuff like that. It's like, oh my gosh, come on, guys! Like this is not what it's about. So it's very important to align with that. For me, again, it's impact and influence.
Yeah, whenever I see somebody like that, I'm like, I don't want to talk to you.
No, right.
Anyway, let's put man aside, as you mentioned. How do you know you are successful?
Well, obviously, I think everybody has their own lens of viewing success. I think it's largely subjective, right? So I think if you can look at the end of the day, are you fulfilled, right? Do you love what you're doing, and do you feel like that you are leading out and pursuing whatever it is you believe, right? Whether you believe in some kind of divine intelligence or what have you, right? God, the universe, whatever. Do you feel like you are following that call for your life, right? And I think for me, I intrinsically know if I am following that to the best of my ability, and I can hang my hat every day and say, yes, unequivocally, I pursued it with 110%, with tenacity. Did I love my wife to the fullest degree that I have possible? 110%. Did I put everything I have into the people that I serve? Did I put everything I had into my health, into my family, into whatever it is, my charitable offerings, right? The humanitarian side of my life. Did I give it my all? I think a lot of people would say, did I achieve X, right? Did I achieve some mountain of, like I said, like when I hit $1 million, it was like, okay, what about $1 billion? Like, because it didn't mean anything to me, right? Like it just was it became an arbitrary number. So I think what it really comes down to is like, did you really fully maximize everything you possibly could to the fullest degree that you could do it, right? And in whatever way that is meaningful to you, in whatever way you feel like you are drawn to do it. I've heard many comparisons of this, and I don't recall specifically how it goes offhand, but it's like two comparisons, one of which was somebody who's really wealthy, but they were miserable, and the other person was miserable, but or happy, but they weren't wealthy at all. And it's like, which one was successful? And 9 times out of 10, it's actually the person that wasn't financially the wealthiest, but they just lived to the fullest, right? So for me, it's that's how I know. It's more of an internal understanding of, yes, today I literally gave it all in every area that I possibly could. I can hang my hat on that day.
You've been in business for a long time. What have you learned from business as a whole?
Things tend to fall into place organically if you're willing to immerse yourself enough to let it pull you into place. So what I mean by that is many of us are out pursuing things, right? Because the latest and greatest influencer tells us that Instagram is what you have to do. And you've got to have 50,000 followers on Instagram before you can be successful in entrepreneurship. Or this is the next big opportunity. It's Bitcoin. You got to buy all the Bitcoin. And I'm not saying that those aren't relevant things that you should do or consider. But I would say this. Oftentimes we get distracted by those things and we take away from doing the things that actually make a difference. Right. So I'll give you an example. And I actually just put together a webinar and I talked about this in the webinar. That first business that I referenced that went off and did multiple millions of dollars. Right. I look back at our Facebook and Twitter. There wasn't even Instagram at that time. This was like 10 years ago. I think the most we had collectively of social media followers was like maybe 900 on Facebook. So it's not representative of a brand that would be producing that kind of revenue or generating that kind of revenue at all, right? But conventional wisdom and societal pressure would tell you that's not a succeeding brand, right? Like they're failing, like they only have 900, so they only have 900 fans or 900 likes. Anytime I've had breakthrough, anytime I find alignment, anytime something happens, it's because I was just so deep in the work in the industry, meaning I rolled up my sleeves. I got face to face with customers. I didn't try to skip the steps. I went through the process, right, of what it takes, building the fundamentals of a business. I was pulled into finding whatever opportunity, whatever blue ocean existed in that market, purely because I had domain expertise and I was able to see that. I think sometimes we try to jump into, I'm an influencer. Okay, but you start by becoming an influencer or somebody that's highly successful by rolling up your sleeves and going to the local farmer's market and just trying to make a single sale and talking to that person about why they bought specifically from you. Or when I did the moving company, by going out and doing the moves myself. I probably did hundreds of moves before I ever hired other people to go do the moves, where I could just sit in an office and not be involved in that process. When we started that business, I literally went in downtown Athens, Georgia, up and down the sidewalks, right, at night, because I knew all the college students were going to be out doing their typical drinking and bar hopping and stuff like that. And we took a camera and I interviewed them literally about what they would look for during their summer moves. Immersion, face-to-face interaction, questions, not necessarily how do I use follow and follow, or how do I, get these brand deals or build this or build. It's like, no, I knew what these people wanted. I saw the problem in that market, and I derived a viable solution for it that they were looking for, right? So I had product market fit. And that alone allowed me to create content that resonated with the people I needed it to resonate with, whether that was blogs, whether that was whatever, right? And so when they came, they're like, this person understands me. This company understands me. I want to do business with them, right? Not just putting stuff out for the sake of putting stuff out to make you look like you're successful, fake it till you make it and all that stuff. So that would be my biggest thing. Slow down, go deep in your market, look for the opportunities, and let it happen organically and unfold accordingly.
Wow. Tell my audience about the magic moment, the day it suddenly all went right for you.
The day it all went right for me. Okay. Well, I mentioned the growth process in that first business and how, this massive growth, and I took it on full time. We went to $1 million or multi-million dollars, right? What I haven't, the part that I didn't tell you was after I quit my job, there was a period there of about 6 to 8 months where I was flat broke. I couldn't afford food. I was doing laundry in my bathtub. I couldn't afford gas, so I was jogging to my office. I was losing weight. I was losing my hair because I just was undernourished. My girlfriend at the time, who luckily by some miracle is now my wife, I don't know how she agreed to stay around with all that going on. It was her birthday. So this was the bottom of it, right? Like I was really, really broke and things were not going well at all. And I just couldn't get over the hump, right? And my brother had to step in. We took her out for her birthday for dinner. My brother had to step in and pay for our meals. My younger brother had to step in and pay because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to pay for my own meal, let alone hers too. So he paid for everybody. And that was probably the lowest moment of my life, literally. And I said, I'm going to figure this out or I'm going to have to go get a job and do something else, right? It's do or die. So I literally went home and I said, I don't know how to build websites, but I know that's what I need to do. I need to build a WordPress website and I need to just blog my butt off and put out rich, searchable content for that specific market. 2 months later, we went from the 4th page of Google to number 1 overall. 2 months after that, so now 6 months after I built the website, I had a request come through that patients I literally thought was spam. I did not think it was a real request. It was to move 316 bedrooms. 316. Turns out it was a furniture manufacturer that wanted us to do the installation for the entire building. I almost didn't call them back because I thought it was just some bot that just filled out the form on my website. But lo and behold, had I not in that pivotal moment said, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out what Google wants and I'm going to go crazy. 3 to 5 blogs a week, really good, like search rich content that ended up ranking us above everybody else, including the big box brands, including the 2 men in a truck, including all the big names in that industry, outranked all of them in that specific market. It just so happened that I came up number 1 overall. So they emailed me first. They messaged us first. I fought like hell to get that request. That one job alone was $60,000 to do that installation job. We did it so well, it led to another $400,000 worth of business just from them alone in that 1 year. So that was 1,000% growth from where I went literally where I could not afford to pay for my girlfriend's dinner to making $500,000 by like June of the next year. So less than 9 months after that. That's how fast it happened. So I would say if there was a moment where things all of a sudden turned around and I knew I was making it, it was probably that. And there's been several others, but that's probably the most like meaningful one where I was very close on the brink of quitting.
Wow. Wow, yes, that was really a magic moment. But can I take you back a little bit? While you are in those 8-9 months when you are broke, you couldn't afford anything, did you not think about moving back to your parents?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've been asked that a lot. So my parents were very against me leaving the job. So the part that I didn't tell you is that I got the job that I was working at was actually a job where my dad had been an employee for years and years and years. He was one of the top salesmen at that company for years. And so he was very much against me leaving. And we had a bit of, I wouldn't say a falling out, but we definitely weren't on the best of terms. And if anybody knows me, you'll know this. I'm extremely stubborn. And I don't like to have to say that I was wrong about something, right? And so I remember for a long time, and I don't know when specifically he did, but for a long time, he wouldn't even call my company by its name. He said, Chris is doing the moving thing. He wouldn't even call it by its name. I think until I made like $1 million, and then he started calling it by its actual name. So they weren't big believers in what I was doing. I think that they expected that I was going to fail, and I did not want to show anybody that was the case. So if I'm being candid, I don't think they knew that most of that was going on. And I don't know why I never got to that point, other than the fact that I just really wanted to prove it to myself that I had it in me to do it. And I was willing to go to any lengths to it. However, in hindsight, I recognize it probably wasn't the smartest move. But you know what, though? Sometimes I feel like you got to kind of just go for it without a safety net and figure it out. So it was like in hindsight, the most challenging moments of my life. But in retrospect, I probably grew more in that 8 months than I grew in any other period of my life because I stretched myself to such a degree.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Wow. Do you ever have coaches and mentors in your business?
Yeah, so I live and die by them. And honestly, if I'm being totally candid, I should have had them sooner. I think that I'm I'm a big believer in lateral thinking, right? So I think sometimes we think that there's this rite of passage, right? And I talked to you about how people make it harder than it has to be, right? It's like, well, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I tend to try to make things more simplistic. There's no reason why you can't sit down, talk to your audience enough to know what they really want, especially online businesses, because it's just unlimited scalability, right? Like you could literally take an offer, create one webinar that converts, one ad that converts, a lead magnet that you invite people to a webinar after they go through and convert, on your opt-in on your lead magnet. And you could literally ride that for 10 years and make millions of dollars. Like it's literally that simple. It's literally that simple. I know there's a lot of nuance and wrinkles to that, but it's literally that simple. Coaches and mentors provide you the insight, specifically the ones if you're really, really specific about the ones that have actually done what you're trying to do. They're very good at helping you identify what that opportunity is, right? And more importantly, you may have something that's shining right in your face, like an offer that you came up with or a specific skill that you have that you are uniquely qualified to teach that we have a difficult time. Russell Brunson talks about this. We don't know that our superpowers are superpowers because we've always been that way. We don't know that it's a superpower. Like, how would you know, right? Because it's just who you are. Our mentors and coaches, they enable us to see like, man, you're really good at this. And I feel like that's something you could monetize or something people could benefit from, right? So for me, it's A, helping me identify the opportunity, and then B, helping me, and this has happened many times, sometimes I launch something, like a new offer or a new funnel or whatever, right? And there's just something that I missed, or there's something that I'm saying in that webinar that's not resonating, and they're able to pick up on it immediately and say, instead of this, how about that? Or instead of your webinar going 45 minutes, why don't we look at the analytics and let's see when people are dropping off? Well, here's the deal: if they're dropping off at 30 minutes and you're going 45 and you're getting into your pitch at 32, most of the people are gone before you're even pitching what it is you're selling. Right. So they're able to help you kind of look through the weeds. And oftentimes what I found, patients, is that it's a slight tweak, not a huge pivot that's missing in your offer, that's missing in converting that one offer that you can run for 10 years that makes you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Literally. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It's that slight little tweak. I think most of the time what we end up doing is we try something in one iteration with one piece of ad copy, with one asset, one graphic that we use. And we run that ad and it doesn't work. And so we're like, oh, it's the offer. It was a terrible offer. I knew nobody was going to buy it. I knew it. And then we give up on it and we go try to create something else. And so you see this like litany of all of these offers that people are, that just created over time, and none of them's converting, and they've just created. And then what happens is, specifically with online stuff, is they just eventually get to the point where they say, yeah, I'm just not good at selling stuff online, or I'm just not this. And then you start to see the limiting beliefs, really creep in, right? And they don't really spend a lot of time going deep on an offer, going deep on a marketing strategy, going deep on that webinar to get it to convert, going deep on that ad strategy. For me, coaches and mentors kind of get me to slow down and say, okay, don't panic. It's not over, right? You don't have to go pivot and flip and flop and start doing this now, like, and change your business completely. Let's go deep on this. Let's really look at the analytics. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's look at it from a different angle, and having that outside perspective, specifically from people who have done it, right? And that's really important. That's a really important criteria. It's people who've actually done it. Those are who you want to be your mentors and your coaches. It is a game changer, and it's worth every dollar you'll spend.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
Oh man, just one, huh? I would say my wife does not get enough credit for my successes. I would say one of the best things that you can do as an entrepreneur is to have a life partner that understands what it is that you're trying to accomplish and can help you look past the numerous challenges, the numerous setbacks, the numerous disappointments, the numerous failures that you experience along the way. It only takes one success to really have breakthrough. It only takes one. But having somebody by your side, or in your mastermind, or in your accountability group that is your big fan, that's always in your corner, that can shoot you straight when you need to be shot straight, that can lift you up when you need to be lifted up. For me, that's who that's been. She has always believed in me, even in moments when I stopped believing in myself. So if I didn't say her above all else, I would be remiss.
What is one thing no one knows about you?
I present I present an aura that I know what I'm doing all the time, that I'm very confident, that I've always got it figured out, that I know what the next offer is going to be, and I know how we're going to get there, and we're going to crush it. We're going to make this money, and it's not that that's not genuine, but I think that the problem is that we only see the highlight reel of people's lives, right? That's it. That's all we see is the highlight reel. So sure, there are things I'm confident about, and I'm not dismissing that, but I'm me just as well as everybody else, including all of these big entrepreneurs that I've had on my show, the ones that I referenced, and anybody you follow, right? For those listening, anybody you follow, they have the same doubts that you have. They have the same challenges as you have. They need pick-me-ups just as much as you do. And I feel like that we don't express that enough. We don't have that vulnerability and that authenticity enough, specifically online, because we're seeing all the smiling faces on Instagram. How would we know that they're struggling? How would we know that they're, man, this offer's not working and I can't get it to work and I don't know why? I experienced that far more, I think, than what people realize. And in many times will second guess what I'm doing and if it's the right thing to do. Right. And so I want to normalize that because it's a part of the process to discovering what is going to work. So I think that's something people probably don't know about me because it's not necessarily what I present, but who's going to walk around and have a shirt that says, I'm not as confident as I appear to be. like that doesn't make any sense. But, I, like everybody else, I really struggle with, especially online. The online game is really hard because there's just so many things that go into it, right? There's so many variables to test. There's so many things that might not be working. You might have an ad working, but then for whatever reason, people aren't opting in. Well, why? Right. And so there's so many different things you have to test and tweak and stuff so it's a long game, right? Like the big part of that is you're spending 95% on the front, right? Crafting and creating and figuring out what's going to work. And then you just kind of let it run organically evergreen and it work, right? So it's that heavy lifting on the front end, and it's very difficult to deal with all those setbacks. So for me, that's probably the one thing people don't know is I struggle just as much, if not more than everybody else with running an online business.
Wow. Just briefly, can you tell us how to start a podcast and grow it really successfully and land the big names?
That's tough. That's a tough one because that's such a long thing to potentially answer. I would say this though. One thing that really helped us is we really did a good job of analyzing the market. So we looked at other podcasters. What were they doing? How were they getting their shows featured? In my case, I found a podcaster who got new and noteworthy, and he literally laid out how he did it. And so we did everything to a T, and it worked. And we found out exactly that it worked. So, for me, it's that. The second part, so research. I don't think enough people do enough research, specifically of competitors, and really tracing out and mapping out what they did to be successful at what they're doing. That's a huge component of it. The second part is tenacity, right? Is just being tenacious with it, but also leveraging the assets that you have. I think a lot of business owners and people that have podcasts, they don't realize what they have to leverage, right? So at the time, I started the podcast and I was trending new and noteworthy. You better believe I reached out to everybody. I think some people were too afraid. Well, I'm not going to reach out to Daymond John. That's Daymond John. No way, man. I have a top 5 show in the world right now, new and noteworthy. I'm reaching out to everybody. I'll reach out to Jesus Christ himself right now. I'm going to get anybody I can on this show. And so I think you have to leverage what you have. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't think about what they have, but moreover, and maybe more importantly, is their pitch revolves too much around a me focus, right? When I pitched Daymond John, it was about what I could do for Daymond John, not what it was going to do for me, Chris Michael Harris, right? It was, hey, you have a new book. I'd love to help you promote it on my show, right? Or, hey, you're launching Barbara Corcoran. You're launching your podcast. I'd love for you to come on and talk about it on mine so you can get some of my audience to subscribe to your podcast, right? So for me, it was really being strategic, mapping that out, following other people, see what they're doing, leveraging what I do have, the assets that I do have. Hey, I built a multi-million-dollar company. I actually know what I'm talking about, right? So positioning myself well, leverage, and making it about them, not about me. So that would be my like 3 pieces of advice.
Thank you. Let's talk about your business. Tell us more about your StartupU and how can we connect with you?
Yeah. So StartupU was, I always complained. I always said, I wish I went to school for this, like when I've been growing a business, or businesses rather. And I said, I wish there was a school for this. So I'm just going to create one. Right. So we created StartupU as, what we intend to be a go-to source. This is in the last couple of months. That's what we intend to be, hopefully a go-to source for entrepreneurs. So whatever it is that somebody's seeking, whether it's they're wanting to get their business off the ground and build that sales page, like we talked about, that converts and starts making sales on a daily basis, or whether it's starting your own podcast, like we also talked about, or if you feel really stuck in your business and you just can't take steps forward, there's a mechanism that I teach in my Unstuck formula. It's inside of StartupU that we teach you exactly what to do when you feel stuck. So we're just trying to provide resources for people that helps them through their entrepreneurial journey. And we're going to continue to add courses underneath the StartupU. It's U like university for those listening, by the way. We're going to continue to add resources so that when people think, I need online information, where do I go? We wanted to create a brand. There's a lot of individuals that sell programs. We just wanted to create a brand that was like a go-to source, right? When you think about certain industries, you think about a name, right? You think about chicken sandwiches, you think about Chick-fil-A, you think about soda, you think about Coca-Cola. So obviously I'm nowhere near the brand recognition of those brands, but we wanted to create something that wasn't, hey, the Chris Michael Harris product. It was StartupU, a recognizable brand name that could be trusted, that people could recognize and go to for things that they need to grow their business. And hopefully at some point, this is a relatively new thing that we've been doing, but hopefully at some point, what we see is we're bringing in other contributors, other educators, people that have been on my podcast, them teaching things inside of StartupU as professors inside of my programs and stuff like that. So we already have had several authors come on to my book club called Startup Books and actually have gotten in there privately and talked to our members, which is amazing. So we are actually starting that process already where we have some of these huge entrepreneurs coming into our programs and literally sharing their knowledge and wisdom with our students. So we're something we're very, very excited about. You can go to Get StartupU. That's getstartupu.com to learn more about what we're doing there.
Wow. How can we connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me all over social media at Hey CMH. It's like Hey, like hello, Hey CMH. You can also go to my website, Hey CMH as well. And I don't always offer this, but since you guys were so awesome and Patience was such a great host, I'll also give this to you guys as well. If you want to email me directly, if you have a question about something in your business, or you just need advice or counsel about something, or you have a question about something that I said that you're confused about, I'd like to make myself available if people, if they want to email me and ask a question. So Chris at chrismichaelharris.com. It's Chris at chrismichaelharris.com. People can message me as well. And then I do have one ask of your audience specifically, Patience. If you don't mind, I could ask real quick.
Yes, please do.
But I do have a question for you guys. If you're listening right now, I want you to hit pause for a quick second. And what I want you to do, if you'll do me a huge favor, is to subscribe to the podcast, the Patience's podcast. And I want you to leave her a review, because what she's doing, there's so much work involved with coordination and hosting and then editing and publishing and all that. So if you could do me a huge favor, wherever platform you're listening on right now, hit subscribe and leave her a quick review for me.
Wow, thank you. There will be more from Chris in a moment. If you are listening to this on a podcast platform and you are encouraged by Chris's journey, please go to our website at theonlinesuccessjourney.com. The site has tons of audio clips from hundreds of successful entrepreneurs' guests' journey, all there to help you find a path for your own online success journey. The site offers exclusive members-only content, and you can join absolutely free and be part of this amazing online success community today. Check it out. That's onlinesuccessjourney.com. Now, Chris, I would love for you to share more with my audience if you are up for it.
Let's do it.
Thank you. If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
I would have to say paid advertisement. I would have to say something like Facebook ads.
What is the best business book you have ever read?
That's easy. The One Thing by Gary Keller.
If you are going to keep a note to yourself in your pocket every day, what would be written on it?
Be more before you do more.
What is your next chapter?
Be patient.
Do you feel like you succeeded or like you're only on the way?
I'm alive. I have the woman of my dreams that I'm married to. I have a beautiful home. I have a beautiful family. Everything else is a bonus.
Wow, thank you. Remind us how we can connect with you once again.
Yeah, guys, Hey CMH on all social media platforms, and then heycmh.com for the website would be the best places to. And again, if you want to email me directly about questions or things we talked about today, or just a challenge you're having in your own business, you want some feedback on, I'm happy to help. Chris at chrismichaelharris.com.
Chris, it's been great to have you here to share your online success journey with us.
Yeah, this was fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That's a wrap. Remember, success is a journey, patience and risk.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest and want you to know there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on her website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast, and they're only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on your favorite platform to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at iTunes and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share your journey. One last thing. If you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out her course on clarity while you're at the website. Finding clarity is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.